Good day, sir. We are Group 1 and today we are going to present our topic. To kickstart, I am Zafra Cindy and I will be discussing the comprehensive description and summary of the written primary source. This primary source is Major General Otis' Proclamation of American Protection for the Filipino People issued on January 4, 1898. In the passage, the general claims that the U.S. is present in the Philippines to protect the Filipino people from Spanish. After the signing of Treaty of Paris, the Philippines was handed over to the United States, and as a policy of the U.S. towards the Philippines, it states in the proclamation that the Philippines' future control, disposition, and administration had been ceded to the U.S. and the U.S. military rule would be extended throughout the entire ceded territory. As for the relevance or significance of the document as a primary source of the Philippine history, this document is just one of the examples of U.S. acting in its best interest of another country as long as it benefited them. They created an impression of assisting the Filipinos in their fight against oppression and denial of basic rights. They treat the Filipinos as capable people, yet later decide that they are incapable of ruling themselves and that the U.S. must impose their own form of governance on the Philippines. As a result, there was a major resistance by the Filipinos to what the U.S. government planned. It is also to be noted that Emilio Aguinaldo had previously declared the Philippines' independence and was determined to start a revolutionary movement against the American forces which erupted the Philippine-American War.
I am Escobedo and here are the information I got from sourcing. The proclamation document was written by L. Stephen Otis. U.S. Army Major General was fought in multiple wars for the Americans. Otis was the commander of a U.S. field army called the 8th Army Corps that used to govern our country during the Philippine-American War. The proclamation was written on Manila, Philippines on December 21, 1888 and was later on announced a month after that. The proclamation was announced so that the Americans would be able to proclaim protection over the Philippines during the Spanish-American War.
Good day, sir. I am Sarana, and for the continuation of the sourcing, the people of the Philippine Islands were the intended audience of the proclamation. It was submitted to Manila newspapers by the U.S. Army, and the proclamation circulated in the Philippine Islands, specifically in Luzon, Manila. The original copy was published by Manila newspapers and is stored in government archives. Lastly, it was written in the document that the ports of the Philippine Islands shall be open to the commerce of all foreign nations and goods and merchandise, not prohibited for military reasons by the military authorities.
Good day, sir. I am Tabuko. Now let's proceed to the corroboration. I will be discussing the primary source that complements with the proclamation of General Otis. This primary source is from a newspaper publication, Guthrie Daily Leader, entitled General Otis Issues a Proclamation to the Philippines. It was created in Guthrie, Oklahoma on January 6, 1899, just 2 days after the date of the proclamation letter of General Otis. According to the newspaper, he communicated President McKinley's instructions through the proclamation and at the same time shared his opinions on how the government of America would be liberal, where Filipino people would be completely represented and would have freedom, although the American government would appoint its men to civil positions. Thus, he asked Filipinos to collaborate and have full faith in them. The goal of publishing this particular piece in a newspaper is to relay the news of President McKinley's proclamation to the Filipinos and Americans as efficiently as possible. Now for the points of complementarity. Both the proclamation and the newspaper article was used to inform and notify the people of the Philippines that the U.S. government would take over the Spanish government's control over the Philippines. Because the news outlines the declaration, the newspaper likewise includes the same information about the proclamation. The primary source enabled us to further clarify and shed light on General Otis' announcements. The United States Benevolent Assimilation Proclamation had a significant impact on Philippine history since it concerned the fate of the Filipino people in the hands of the American administration.
Good day everyone, I am Castaños and I will be reporting the other primary sources with contradicting information. So we have here Aganelo's response in English to Otis' proclamation made at Malolos, Bulacan on January 5, 1899. So this is a counter-proclamation made by Aguinaldo in response to McKinley's benevolence, and he warned that his government was prepared to oppose any American attempt to violently take over the country. So it shows the stance of Emilio Aguinaldo in regards to the intentions of the Americans in occupying the Philippines, and it was also created to tell the Filipinos that he did not agree to any of the things said in the proclamation of General Otis. So for our points of contradictions, Emilio emphasized in his letter that General Otis has contradicted every promise given to him by the Americans, for they have not been carried out. So promises such as that the Americans will not conquer the Philippines, and they would only aid them in achieving their independence, and this did not happen because they imposed their policies upon the natives of the country so that they could take full control of the nation. They also promised that the Filipino forces would have full possession of Manila, which obviously did not happen since the Americans ordered their military to have authority within the city of Manila. It made me realize that benevolent assimilation wasn't really true, because in the first place, they had no right to take those policies since they promised that they wouldn't conquer the country. They were forcing those policies to us, and then we have little power to object to the occupation of the Americans.
My name is Arvin Alo. The next primary source is an editorial cartoon titled Aguinaldo Takes the Oath of Allegiance. Now, in this news article, it talks about the proclamation of Aguinaldo's taking an oath of allegiance to the United States 9 days after he was captured at his secret headquarters on March 23, 1901, in order to spare him from previously declaring a war. The one who published this news article is the Salt Lake Herald Republican newspaper in Utah, Thursday, April 4, 1901, and it was digitalized by J. Willard Marriott Library, University of Utah. It was published to inform citizens that Aguinaldo had sworn allegiance to the United States and that the Filipino insurgents would be forced to surrender during the Philippine-American War. Other information during these historical events is that on April 19, 1901, Chief Justice Arellano, formerly Attorney General in Aguinaldo's cabinet, persuaded him to swear allegiance to the United States, and on the same day, he issued a proclamation acknowledging and accepting the sovereignty of the United States throughout the Philippine archipelago. The group understands that this primary source engraves a key Philippine history of how the United States refused to recognize Aguinaldo's presidency, causing Aguinaldo to declare war on the United States in response to Aguinaldo's desire to establish Philippine independence, and gave us an identity. However, he was captured and forced to surrender alongside the revolutionaries swearing loyalty to the United States, and Aguinaldo was forced to step down from politics.
Hello, my name is Stu James Elian. The benevolent assimilation by the Americas was a mission that proclaimed a promise to the Filipinos that the United States would substitute mild way of justice and right for arbitrary rule, simply trying to say that the Filipino people would be given justice and be freed from the colonization of Spain. The primary sources do acknowledge the fact that there were two sides of its application to the Filipino people. Along with this too, the assimilation itself had different perspective from the Filipino people, as the initial assimilation favored the rich and the elites. Some would even have a hypocritical realization toward the United States, as their mission to save the Filipino people would require them to fight and even kill them. In the end, in order for the United States to not make an enemy of the Philippines and create an undying hate towards them, they created policies that were pro-Filipino, adopting some from their own country, and even helping the country grow and develop on its own.
Good day, sir. I'm Nano. Textbooks taught us both sides of the story. As far as we can remember, there was no denying the fact that bad things did happen. We realized that the method the Americans used was a lot better than that of the Spaniards. We see Americans helping people, but there are also instances where it is the total opposite. There are stories that tell they've developed many aspects of the country, but others say that it was because of slavery and forced labor. We were taught to fight for our freedom, but it taught the youth over liberation, causing disrespect and chaos. Life needs good and bad experiences to reach betterment. Different people with different personalities have different measures to improve and discipline. There may be bad effects, but we cannot generalize that the entire American race who were involved had good intentions either. They are just like human beings. A race does not define the intention of one towards others. To conclude, other things that struck us include the fact that they were our enemy, who soon became our friend, with after they fulfilled their promise of freedom for the Filipinos.